Good evening, everybody. Welcome along to the Sea Live podcast. My name is Sam, and as always, I have my trusted friend and podcast sidekick, Mr. Christopher Barnes.
Hey, how are you, mate? You all right?
Chris, I'm absolutely ecstatic at what happened over the weekend for our Sing for Their Supper. Just the overall
It was good.
response, just the general feedback, and of course, raising £175 for St Andrew's Community Food Banks. Blown away, simply blown away.
Well done to everyone who donated, everyone who watched, everyone who's continued to watch. Mate, the figures have been unreal. Have you seen how many people it went out to? You're talking like nearly 5,000 people this engagement, and then we're talking like nearly 1,700 views.
It's crazy. I mean, we set out to raise £50. I thought £50 was a reasonable target. We were happy with that. Just blown away. It's been tripled and nearly at £200. So thank you again for those of you that tuned in to the live stream. And again, we've got a big thank you to all those fantastic artists that are available through Sea Live as well. So why not do a shameless plug now? Make sure that you do follow us on our social medias. On Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram as well. On Facebook, we are at Sea Live. On Twitter, we are at Sea Live Enter1. And also on Instagram, we are at Sea Live UK. And again, Chris, I was just blown away by the amount of messages that we got from people who enjoyed the stream, and then on top of that, donating that money as well. So thank you all so much.
But don't forget, Sam, we are going to try and increase this. Week before Christmas, we're going to try and increase that at the Up All Night Comeback 2020 gig, which is on sale at the Grand Central. So the box office is open. Get your tickets. We put links on our Facebooks and WhatsApp and Twitters and stuff like that of the number. The tickets are selling though, Sam.
They are. I mean, I spoke to Hayley only on. Actually, it was yesterday. I spoke to her. Feels like a very long time ago, but it was yesterday. And yeah, it's selling really well. They had issues over the weekend due to phone lines being down, but there is someone manning the phones to get you your tickets for the 19th of December and also for any other gigs over the Christmas period for Grand Central Hall. So make sure that you do get down there. Especially for the 19th of December.
Because get your jumpers on, get your Christmas jumpers on, because the best band in Liverpool will be taking the stage again for a ultimate night of sheer musical brilliance. Yes. That's all I can say.
We've got a musical talent guest this evening. He has a album out, Ellison Place. As you can see on the screen there, Mr. Cal Ruddy. How you doing, mate?
Hey! Hello, Cal. How are you?
Good evening, boys. How are you doing?
We're all right.
Very well. We're very well. What have you been up to? We're living in a mad world, COVID, all that jazz. You've probably been asked this 10,000 times, but what have you been up to? What have you been doing to keep busy?
It's been a crazy year, boys. It's been absolutely unbelievable, hasn't it? I mean, but I've been keeping busy. Especially during the second lockdown, it's been a bit more productive than the first one. The first one just hit and I lost all my dates, and I was like, "What's going on?" Like the world just completely changed overnight, didn't it? I mean,
yeah.
So during the summer, I got back into the swing of things. I took a bit of time off during the first lockdown, and I became a backyard gardener. So we were doing the garden up and all that. So that was interesting. But during the second lockdown, I've been a lot more productive. I finally launched the album online, which has been great. The response has been fantastic, and I've been writing some news material, and I'm gearing up to do some live stream shows as well. It's not ideal, but it keeps the fans happy and it keeps people positive and happy during these crazy times. So that's what I want to do with my music, really, just keep people happy and positive.
Yeah, because we've asked a couple of people who have who've released albums in lockdown. Whitney, remember in LA, she released one, and we were like, how's that gone? How have you found? And she was like, well, kind of it's good because I'm getting new people who've not seen my stuff because everything's on stream now online. So, how have you found releasing the album online?
Really interesting, mate. Really, because it's been a long process getting this album together. Really, because I wrote the songs in Nashville 3 years ago. So I did a writing trip over there in Nashville. Wrote the songs over there, and then I came back from Nashville, and for 6 months, 8 months after coming back, so that was 3 years ago, September 2017. I came back and I basically did a few gigs across Liverpool and across the UK, and I basically just like tested the reactions to the songs, see what people thought of them, how people interacted with them, in a live setting and all that. And then basically, I started recording in the summer of 2018, and I was recording on and off for a year, perfecting it and getting it all right and all that. So that took the best part of a year and a bit really to get that all sorted. And then the album was ready to go this time last year. I did a sort of fan release, pre-release thing on CD, like a limited CD run. And people were loving it. I did a sold-out show at Studio 2 and people were buzzing off that, so that was great. So I came into 2020 thinking, oh, great, you know what I mean? Like, everything's going well, I got buzz off 2019 and the last few years. And then I had a headline show in Jimmy's on Bowl Street in Liverpool. And then literally that was my last show. I haven't played a show since that. So that's just crazy, because usually I'm always on the circuit, you know what I mean? And I've been for like the last 7-8 years. It's just been mad. So releasing an album at this time it's a bit of a brave move, but I think people have responded nicely to it, so I'm made up.
And as you say, you've got a nice fan base, and you've got a fan base that's been quite loyal to you, and they follow you around your shows, and you're gonna hit your fan base big time. That's. But hopefully, you've introduced new people who've never heard of you into what you actually do, because you can share so much now. Do you find that you are getting a little bit more interest from people that you've never spoke to before?
I'd say, especially the last few weeks, since I put the album out, there's been a lot of response internationally as well. I've noticed my Spotify listeners have gone up in the USA and across Europe and all that, so that's been really positive and made up, because it's great for people locally to enjoy my music, but I always see myself as an international artist, really, because of my experiences in America and Italy and all that. So it's been nice to actually see the fan base increasing, in different parts of the world. It's been great to see people have been getting in touch on Instagram and Twitter and all that, and say, oh, I've just discovered this album on Spotify, check it out, and it's been great. I love reading all that. It's been mega.
So how did the Nashville thing come about? Because it's quite rare for a Liverpool lad who's playing Liverpool scene to just swan off to Nashville and write an album in Nashville with some. I've heard the album. There's some fantastic musicians on that album. How did that come about? Because I'm just going to make a note of it, because I fancy going to Nashville.
Good lad. You look up your alley, mate. Honestly, great.
So how did you get there? What happened?
So I was supposed to go out to California in March 2017. I supported the band at the Zanzibar called the Falling Doves. Now, they've played the Cavern and a few different places, when they've been to the UK. And they invited me out to do a tour in California in the March of that year. So I did a GoFundMe page, and people were really, really generous and kind with their donations to get me across. And then literally 2 weeks before I was due to fly out, I got really, really ill. I had troubles with my immune system, and I was in hospital for a few weeks, and I just didn't have the strength to go in the end. My doctor said it's not advisable that you fly out and do, because it was 7 dates over 9 days, do you know what I mean? And a lot of travelling in between shows and all that. So it would have been pretty heavy going, as well as the jet lag and the travelling over there as well.
Yeah.
So I was gutted, mate. I was absolutely gutted, do you know what I mean? Because this has always been my dream, to play in the US and to play internationally and all that. And then it just felt like it felt like everything had just come crashing down around me. Do you know what I mean? And I was like, what do I do next? So I went to London when I recovered. So I think it was like April time of 2017. And I went to London to a music networking event at Notting Hill, Tyler Yard Studios. And a guy called Alan McKendry Palmer, he was at the event, and he said a few words, and he was mingling about the crowd and all that. And now I sort of knew of Alan, on the scene and all that, and I knew that he was a great songwriter and producer, and he'd done loads of different projects in America and in London as well. So we got chatting and all that, and I passed him a CD and my card, and I said, like, I've done this crowdfunding campaign, and I'm looking for another opportunity to use that money, because I didn't want to let anyone down, because people have been so kind and supported me. So he said, I'll give you an email in a few weeks, I'll have a listen when I get back to the States, I'll be in touch. So we got in touch, and he said, like, I really love your rockabilly Americana influence sound, and I'd love to work with you. Let me put some dates together for September. And so I ended up flying out there September 2017 for 3 weeks, and it was honestly life-changing. It made me the artist I am today, I'd say.
Wow. So what did you have the songs sort of there, or was it just you wrote the songs out there? Did you have the songs before you went? Or did you write them there?
So the album is 11 tracks. So what happened was I went out for 3 weeks, and I worked at Alan's studio with different writers. So one day I'd be paired off with one writer, for the next day another person, things like that. It wasn't like 20 writers on one tune or anything like that. It was like, a nice little stripped down collaborative process with 1 or 2 people in the room, as well as me. So I wrote 12 songs when I was out in Nashville, and 9 of those made the final cut. And then a couple of songs that I'd written previously, prior to the recording session, prior to the Nashville trip, I thought that they fitted the vibe of the rest of the songs as well. So there's a couple of, like, Buying Time, December's Friend, and Maria on the album are all tunes which date from previously, so about 2015, 2016, but even that early, do you know what I mean? So
yeah,
I dug deep for those ones, and sort of gave them a bit of a polish when they came into the studio.
Because Buying Time is very, it's slightly different to the rest. You can tell that it's a different vibe going on. It's very, I got a bit of Jake Boogie kind of sound going on there.
I get that.
Yeah, I like a Jake Bug sound, but there's lovely little chords introduce it. It's a lovely little, it stands out for me as like that nice acoustic, slow, lovely chord progression songs, where the others are just like full on rock and roll-y kind of things, aren't they?
Yeah.
Which is it's good, because it's a nice variation in the. But a Buying Time is the one that when I was listening to it, I kind of I had it on painting, and Buying Time, and I just kind of stopped because the chords are lovely. Did you play all the acoustic on that as well? Yeah.
Yeah. So the whole album, I played all the rhythm guitar, so all the acoustic guitar and all the electric rhythm guitar parts, they're all me.
Wow. I'm
not really a lead player, you see, so I as John Lennon once said, he taught himself guitar because to back himself, and I'm in a similar vein, like just a few chords and the truth.
Well, it reminds me, that's how my life there, mate. But it does remind, speaking of John Lennon, it does remind me of the John Lennon rock and roll album in many ways. Because it's got that feel of it, where he was going to his pure roots that he listened to as kids, his 50s kind of style. For me, it's got that, and I think it's quite unique, because I haven't heard anything like that for a while. So that's why it stood out for me, and especially Dance the Night Away. Dance the Night Away, is it? Yeah. Which is the lead guitar, and that's fantastic.
Oh, man, the solo, and do you know what, Dave? For the whole album, it's funny you said that about the 50s influences. We used vintage guitars on the whole album. Do you know what I mean? So we used for that track in particular, I used a 1956 Gibson Les Paul Jr. for my sort of rhythm guitar parts, And I think Scott Poley, the lad who played guitar, the lead guitar, I think he used the Harmony Rocket from 1964, 1965. And that was one of the guitars which was on Brenda Lee's version of Rocking Around the Christmas Tree. And that sort of chimey, like, distinctive guitar tone. That was the sort of vibe we were going for on that. Do you know what I mean? Like,
it must be very tempting to because here's a story. I knew a fella who had a electric amp, and he went to the institute with McCartney and Harrison. He was an older fella, and so they used to take him to the recordings because he was the only person that he knew had an amp, right? So and he said Lennon, like, when you go to these fancy studios, Lennon would put his guitar on the rack and take one off the rack and take it.
Just rub it off.
He put his guitar on the rack. He'd take one of the guitars off the rack. It just must be seeing all those guitars though. When I was in New York and I was in the big guitar center, there was just years old guitars, and there was one from like the 1930s, this Martin. And I was like, I need to play that. I think I've told Sam. Have I told you the story about this 1930s Martin acoustic?
We talked about this with Simon Cassidy on a previous podcast. But again, you were saying you were in the centre, and go on, you can tell the story yourself.
I was in like this humidified acoustic room. The doors must have been about that thick, big glass door, and there was like £30,000 guitar, 20 grand, and I thought, I'm going to play that for £30,000 Martin. And I said to the guy, and he went, yeah, just go. So I picked it up. It's the worst guitar I've ever played in my life.
Was it all?
It was the worst guitar. The action must have been about that. And in terms of, if you don't know guitars, that means the strings are too far away from there. It was awful. And I said, why is that 30,000 quid? I've got guitars for like 100 quid that are nicer than that. And he went, the wood? Just the wood? He said the wood is the rarest wood that you can get. So I was like, right, okay. So what was it like in the studio with all those guitars?
Oh, mate. So I had the good fortune when I was in Nashville. So one of the guys I worked with, Blue Miller, I went to a studio to write one day. Now, Blue had worked with people like India Ari, Isaac Hayes, Bob Seger Band, people like that. And as a touring musician, he also worked with Jürgen Fleetwood Mac on the road before he became producer. Now, I walked into Blue's studio in Nashville. We didn't record the album in Nashville, but we did some demos over there. So Been Here Before was written on a 1945 Gibson J45. And honestly, mate, it was like the dream guitar for me. Oh, God. It was just like a piece of history in my hands. Do you know what I mean? It was great. Yeah. It was so... The neck was lovely on it. The tone... There was history behind the guitar, so when I started playing, the chord progression, I was just like messing around with the guitar for a bit, and I came up with these chords for Been Here Before, and Blue was jamming away on another guitar. I think it was a Guild from the 70s. It was just surrounded by all these lovely guitars and all that, and it really helped us get into the mood, into the sort of songwriting vibe, and it was great to just sort of like sit there, and it was like. You felt like there was like, even though I just picked up that guitar, I felt like it already inspired me to create something new. It was fantastic.
It's funny though, when you're in the studio or in a place like Nashville, it must channel inner something different. You know what I mean, Sam? When you were working in LA and stuff, did you find that you were kind of in a different zone when you were singing?
Yeah, there's definitely, LA's famous for that, that smog, especially when you're looking out on the skyline. There's certainly something in the air. But I do get where you come from, obviously being with like-minded people and obviously working with, the producers of the show and the experts during the X Factor in 2018. It was special. It was a special moment for me. I think just being there and being you know, LA's one of them places where you've either made it or you're trying to make it, and obviously it's true, and being that lad, part of a choir that was on the X Factor, that was deemed as kind of like the outcasts, you know, the musical theatre all put together for a choir for the X Factor. Everything just didn't seem to fit, and we made it to LA, and that was kind of my personal goal, to get to LA or a judge's house. But to have a barbecue with Robbie Williams in his house in LA was pretty cool. So it was great. Honestly, it was really good. And one thing that I wanted to ask you, Cal, is obviously you're in Nashville, you're writing these songs, and obviously being a local lad from Liverpool. Liverpool is synonymous for the Beatles and for unbelievable talent. When you're over there, are you just bombarded with questions of, you know, what's it like? What's Liverpool like?
Oh, mate, honestly, so I played my first show in Nashville. It was a last minute thing, actually, so I had shows lined up for the second and third week. And I just thought, oh yeah, I'll just sort of ease myself in. Do you know what I mean? Ease myself into the whole lifestyle of, you know, being in Nashville, working on these songs and all that. And my mum and dad obviously came on the trip with me, and they went to a bar on the Wednesday night, and they met this singer in a bar called Megan Barker, and they got chatting and all that. I was just like, I was knackered after a full day of writing and all that, so I just had a chill night for that night. But they were more rock and roll than me on the night, so they just ended up going up to the local bar down the road. And they met this girl called Megan Barker, and my mum played one of my songs on Spotify to her, you know, because obviously I wasn't there to get up and play myself. And she said, we've had a cancellation at a show tomorrow night, like a writers' round kind of vibe. Would Cal like to, you know, come and join us? And she rang me then and said, like, you're playing this show tomorrow. And I was like, yes, that's boss, that's Megan. So I turned up, and it was so mad. I was such a fish out of water that day, you know, for like the first 5 minutes, because everyone was like, you know, larger than life, you know, you know, really, really friendly and really, like, you know, like buzzing about the show and all that. So we did a little sound check, and once people heard my voice, they were like, oh my God, you're British, you know, where are you from, man, and all this. And I was like, oh, I'm from near Liverpool. And this guy was telling about, like, I love the Beatles. Me and my wife go over to Liverpool every few years to do the tavern and all, you know, do all the tourist stuff. And then I was like, hello, I'm John, how are you doing? I used to be in a band called the Beatles, you know, and all that. And obviously that's a really, like, terrible impression, but, like, to them, they're like, oh my God, dude, that's amazing, man, and all this, and they were loving it. So I remember sitting there afterwards, and I was just like chatting to these American fellas in this bar after they did finish. Like, they loved Maria, they loved, like, the songs that I was playing, and they said they really liked, like, the way that I came over to Nashville, and I was sort of embracing their sort of sound, but also bringing a bit of Mersey beat and a bit of British rock and roll into it as well. So yeah, it was great, man. Yeah.
You're gonna play us a track now, aren't you? One of the tracks does this one feature on the new album?
It does, mate. Yeah. This one's called Miners. Is your heart beating out of sync? A little faster, a little deeper. Mine is tongue-tied and starry-eyed. Is your smile too hard to hide? 'Cause mine is you've got a way of making me more than I've ever dreamed. Life is a different kind of beautiful when you're next to me. Is your picture of heaven on earth a little something like this? 'Cause I know, but I know, but I know mine is. Mine is. Are your skies blue and blue? Is every day like a honeymoon? 'Cause mine is. Mine is. Is your mind painting future scenes? Were you happy growing old with me? 'Cause mine is. Mine is. You've got a way of making me more than I've ever dreamed. Life is a different kind of beautiful when you're next to me. Is your picture of heaven on earth a little something like this? 'Cause I know, I know, I know mine is. Mine is.
Hey, love it.
Nice one, boys. Thank you very much.
Well done, well done, well done.
Lyrical wise, have any of these lyrics personal things that have happened to you?
So,
yeah, do you take personal feelings into some of these songs? Because I had a good listen today, and I don't know. There's a lot of emotion in some of these. It sounds like there's a lot of personal experiences in some of these songs. Is that what I'm thinking?
Oh, definitely, mate. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I always try to write about things that happened to me or things that things that mean a lot to me. Do you know what I mean? So, but with mine is the story behind that song. I was in the studio in Nashville with a guy called Corey D. Barker, and Corey is like one of the most prolific songwriters in Nashville. I've got him on Facebook still, and he's every day he's like writing with different people. Even through the pandemic, he's been on Zoom writing with people, doing all sorts of stuff.
Wow.
So we sat in the studio having a coffee, and we were thinking how we'd like to write. Like we weren't really thinking about an album as such at that time. We were thinking about what's missing in my live set. So we were missing a sort of almost ballady sort of like 50s love song, in the set. So we thought, well, let's write something tender like that. So I started playing, like, jamming around some chords. And me and Tori came up with those lyrics, and it came from a very heartfelt place, if that makes sense. I mean, I'm a very emotional guy. I mean, I can't hide that. So I like to bring that out when I write songs.
Well, that's it. I think it's important to have the emotion side in songs. I think when I've listened to music, because here's a good question for you. Someone asked me the other day, when I listen to a new song, so I've listened to all your tracks today, and they say, do you listen? And I'll ask Sam this. Do you listen, Sam, when you listen to a new song, do you listen to the lyrics or the tune first?
Oh, it depends, man. It depends if it's a catchy hook, catchy, melody. I always look as an ex-musical theatre graduate. Oh, sorry, as an ex-musical theatre student and graduate. I'm looking for a performance. I'm looking for a story and how they related through performance always. So I'd probably say, yeah, I'm looking for lyrics. I'm looking for a story. I'm looking for, like Cal said, if it's heartbreak, let me see it in your face. So
mean it. I mean, show those emotions, man. Yeah, definitely.
I think so. I think so. It's got to be, from the heart. Everything that I write is from the heart. Everything that, I feel like it comes from a place where, in that moment, the other night, looking out the window, seeing the stars in the sky, thinking about exes and things like that, and you just write stuff. You literally just write it down. So it is, and some of the stuff is cheesy. Don't get me wrong, but again, cheese sells sometimes. It does.
Well, I'm the tune. I hear a tune. It's like buying time today. I instantly just listened. I just stopped. I was painting and just stopped. I thought, I like that.
Do you think, Chris, that's due to the fact that you're a guitar player? You play guitar, and you can your love for guitar. You can reminisce with these chords, these melodic chords, the structure.
Well, I'm working on a little project at the moment with doing like this. I haven't told you about this, Sam. Actually, I'm working with a lad online I'm helping him write the music for a Greek mythology theatre show.
Ooh.
Right. So we're coming up with all these sounds that don't sound traditional, if you know what I mean. So we're using. I've changed the tuning. It's the maddest tuning, and then we're working through it. And it's talking about rage and gods and stuff like that. So he's bang into all this. So I've got to try and put something together for him. So I'm trying to show him how to do it as well, because he wants to play it on the show. He wants
yeah.
So I'm showing him how we're working through it, and it's the sound scopes. Maybe you're right, Sam. Maybe when I'm a famous DJ. That's what my.
This time next year, Rodney.
Let's not talk about my DJ skills until 2022, and then we will really talk about it.
To be fair, that gives you enough time. It gives you enough time.
Time to get me tape mix ready. Where's the cassette go? Where does the cassette go? That'll be. But I honestly, I think there's certain tracks on the album that instantly, if people haven't heard it, put it on and they'll just stop. I stopped. I was painting today and I stopped just to hear it, because I haven't heard. I know I haven't seen you loads live, and yeah, but I'd like to hear some of these live, and I'm looking forward to that.
Cheers, mate. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much.
Now, we've done it together, but we've not done gigs together. We've been to see a few famous bands together, haven't we? Did we watch the Coral?
Yeah. I remember 4 years. Yeah, it was around this time. 4 years ago, we went to see Ocean Colour Scene on the Friday, I think it was, and then the next night it was the Coral. So it was like a two-night stand. Yeah, wasn't it? Yeah.
I remember it was cold. That's all I remember. It was freezing.
But it was boss, wasn't it? It was a good
gig.
Man. Really, really
good gig. And then Jack was end up as well, Sam.
Love Jack.
So I think there's a picture of me, you, and Jack in the.
Oh, maybe we'll have to find that. Dig that out on Facebook.
I'll dig that out. But it's but not only are you like music, your mum and dad are banging to, and they were at the gig as well.
Oh yeah, mate. I mean, to be honest, I'd say going back to my childhood, I owe a lot of my musical taste to my grandparents and my mum and dad. So my nan and granddad inspired my love of 50s and 60s rock and roll. I mean, Buddy Holly and Elvis and country people like Johnny Cash, Jim Reeves, Glenn Campbell, people like that, and then even people like Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra have been big influences as well. And then from my mum and dad's record collection, I'm a massive T-Rex fan. Like, I love all that sort of glam rock, 70s sort of vibe.
Yeah,
absolutely. Like Mark Bolan is one of my idols, mate. There's something about that fella. His stage presence was just hypnotising to me, and so, and also like the fact that on my dad's side, my grandparents were Irish, So I've grown up with a lot of Irish music as well. So there's a bit of a mixed bag in there, but it all sort of, if you listen to some of my tunes, it sort of bleeds through the influences. Do you know what I mean? Like that sort of explains my sound, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you've definitely got a sound, and on the album, you can. I was just loving the 50s rock and roll, all that rock and roll stuff, especially the 50s stuff, the stuff that was imported over to Liverpool in the 50s, and all the kids went feral. That's what it's all about, because it was a completely new sound. Do you know what I mean? You had
Definitely, mate. Yeah,
off Rock Around the Clock, and then it went feral, and then they were bringing records over to Liverpool for the ports. So you can see where your kind of influence, you took the Liverpool back over to Nashville. It must have been amazing playing gigs over there. And
mate, it was so nice to see the response. I mean, it was nice that people sort of got my sound over there. Do you know what I mean? It was nice to actually go over there and like, it wasn't like a gimmick or anything like that. People were like actually like properly into it. Do you know what I mean? And that was really nice as a performer, as a songwriter, and as a person. Do you know what I mean? It's great, mate. Do you know what I mean?
Do you think the music scene will change? Obviously, with everything that's gone on, and we've seen news recently. Obviously, sad the Zanzibar, and there's talk of other independent venues that are closing down. Another great one round the corner on Duke Street Sound closed down recently as well. Obviously, the heart of that little area there, Duke Street, Seal Street, for independent venues, where the go-to, especially for me growing up as a musician, but also as a watcher of live music as well. Where do you see us going locally with local music and moving forward? How can we get out of this black hole of COVID enclosures?
It's a really worrying time, mate, because as you've just mentioned, two of those venues, the Zanzibar and Sound, I've grown up in places like that. I played my first, so I've been doing this for the last 10 years now, and about six years ago, 6 years ago this month actually, Tony Butler, rest his soul, for the Zanzibar, he gave me my first proper Liverpool show in the centre of town. Before that, I was playing like out in the outskirts and like in smaller venues and all that. But it was a real honour to play in places like the Zanzibar, and that's where I sort of cut my teeth, really. Do you know what I mean? That's what gave me the confidence to sort of like keep on doing it, and it gave me such a passion for performing live and playing at places like that. Because like, do you know what I mean? It's great going to see people in big arenas and all that, but like when you got the crowd right in your face, it's boss. It's absolutely mega, do you know what I mean? So losing places at the Zanzibar and Sound, I played one of my first headline shows was that Sound about 5 years ago, do you know what I mean? So Sound, Food and Drink was a great venue. I preferred it in the old days when it was all sort of like a bit rough around the edges. I loved it then, that was great, do you know what I mean? But no, it really is worrying, because as time goes on, obviously, like, I won't go into it too much, but COVID is like a real concern both for people's physical health and for mental health. But it is a worrying time for the industry as well. Like there's so many people. I've seen bands split up this year. Like bands who are doing well just split up and just call it quits, which is like it's so depressing not being able to get out there and do what we loved. It, man, it's crazy. And as you two fellas know yourselves, it, man.
Yeah, we said we noticed how much equipment is on sale at the moment, and you can see how much people have just sold equipment.
Sad. It's so sad, isn't it?
Yeah, I wish some of those guitars for National were selling into my hands, like.
Oh mate, do you know what though? It's sad though, because I've seen like the last few days. When you go on Facebook Marketplace and all that, and you have a look, and people are selling like someone was selling like an old Fender Tweed amp the other day, proper vintage gear, proper nice gear, and it's like, if you had that in your possession as a player, as a musician, or whether you play live or not, if you're into it and that's what you do, and you for whatever reason, whether it's financially or whatever else, if you have to sell gear like that, it must be soul destroying. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think the way forward though is we've got to preserve the venues. The Zanzibar's gone. I hope it just doesn't turn into another club or a pub or whatever.
Yeah. Sadly,
we got Park Street. We don't know what's happening with that now. We've got Sound. Obviously, it's gone. So it needs something else. It needs maybe someone to do something revolutionary, like play a gig on an aeroplane.
I was wondering if you were going to mention that. I was wondering about that. No, that was the most surreal gig I've played in my life, I'd say. Yeah, definitely.
What's that all about? I saw the picture. You're on the plane. I was like, what is he doing? I've tried to get guitars on planes. It's a nightmare. You just walk into first class and start playing. You know what I mean?
That came about. So 4 years ago, I did a little promotional tour for Blue Air, the airline. But on the way there, like the staff on the plane on the way there didn't know, that I was obviously representing their company and all that. So they were giving me a bit of a hard time. I was like, "Can you take a photo? Can you take a photo of me next to the door of the plane and all that? Like I'm representing the company." And they're like, "If you say that one more time, we're going to kick you off this flight." And obviously, I was going off for like a few days to work for the company. So when I got there, I played for 3 days. I played across the streets of Milan, Bergamo, and then I travelled to Verona as well. So I was doing, promoting Liverpool as a destination. So I was doing a lot of Beatles stuff, but also my own stuff and a lot of rock and roll thrown in as well. And then I was really cheeky on the last day. I sort of got friendly with Alex. She was one of the representatives for the company, and she was so nice. And she asked me how the flight was over and all that sort of thing. And I said, "Can I be cheeky? On the way back, can I play a set on the plane in flight?" I just thought, there's no chance he's going to let me, health and safety or whatever else.
Yeah.
There's no chance I'm going to be allowed to do this. And she said, "Oh my God, what a great idea! Like let's do that. Like let's sort that out." So we got to the airport early on the day I left, and got photos with with all the staff and all that, like loads of social media content, which is great. And then halfway through the flight, my guitar was actually had its own seat on that return flight, which is made up. But I didn't take this though. I took this is my baby. I've had this for like 10 years nearly.
Yeah.
Egyptian, but I took an Epiphone with me, just in case if it broke on the flight, it's not as it's not as dear to get it replaced or fixed or whatever. So yeah, I just all of a sudden they make an announcement. We're going to have some in-flight entertainment for you today. Cal Ruddy from Liverpool is going to play a few songs, and I was like, "What is going on?" So I just stepped to the front of the plane, tuned up, behind the curtain. Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain, and then literally just
singing live tonight.
Tracked on, and it was great, mate. I mean, it was so surreal. It was so surreal because I felt the emotion of the plane, obviously, as I was playing, and there was a little bit of turbulence at one point. So it was like, "Oh, do you know what I mean?"
But my days, no,
it was something else. It was boss. It was honestly like it in a phrase, literally once in a lifetime. I don't know anyone else, like from the pool around here who's done anything like it. So I feel quite unique in that respect, really.
I'm surprised that's not like some sort of Guinness record. Performing at like a high altitude.
Altitude. Yeah.
38,000 feet.
Right.
I think we need to look into that. Because I have a feeling that's a Guinness World Record. But there you go. Cal, you were talking off camera before that you've got a few live streams coming up on your social medias. Is there anything that you want to promote? Obviously, your own social medias or anything that you've got coming up for the people at home.
I've got a few things in the pipeline. So to be honest, I haven't got dates for you just yet. But if you keep an eye on my social media, Instagram, Cal Ruddy, Facebook, Cal Ruddy Music, and Twitter, Cal_Ruddy. You can also check out the album on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, and YouTube Music. If you like what I'm doing, tag me in a post, listen to the album, share it with your friends, and all that sort of stuff. I'd really appreciate the support. It's been quite a journey getting these songs on the album and getting everything sorted. So I really, really do appreciate every bit of support that I do get. So I want to thank you fellas for having me on tonight as well. I really appreciate your support as well.
Our pleasure, mate. Our pleasure. And if you're into your guitars, have a listen to the album, because you can hear they are banging guitars. That's all I can say.
Yeah, man, nice.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to finish tonight's podcast with a performance from Cal in a moment. But just to remind you all, please do follow us on our social medias, on Facebook, Twitter, and also on Instagram as well. On Facebook, we are at CLive. Twitter, we are at CLive, Enter1. And on Instagram, we are at CLive UK. Chris, as always, thank you so much.
Yes, and thank you everyone again who donated for Sing for the Supper. We will be pushing on with the getting more money when we go to Grand Central, so we'll keep you all posted. But thank you again, everyone.
Brilliant. Guys, that's been another edition of the CLive podcast. Thank you so much. We'll be back next week with another fantastic guest. In the meantime, stay safe out there, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Thanks for having me, boys. This one's cool, been here before. Nice one. This train is taking me around the world. Haven't got a ticket for you, girl. I don't have a clue what's in store when I walk through that door. But baby, you and I've been here before. But baby, you and I've been here before. Don't know how many miles I must go, trying to find what's missing in my soul. I don't have a clue what's in store when I walk through that door. But baby, you and I've been here before. But baby, you and I've been here before. Maybe a runaway train rolling down the track. I don't know which way's forward, but you know I'll be back. 'Cause I've always kept my promise, and I swore I'd walk through that door. But baby, you and I've been here before. But baby, you and I've been here before. Maybe a runaway train rolling down the track. I don't know which way's forward, but you know I'll be back. 'Cause I've always kept my promise, and I swore I'd walk through that door. But baby, you and I've been here before. But baby, you and I've been here before. Oh, I'll get home again. When I do, tell your family and your friends. I'll be bringing love you can't ignore when I walk through that door. But baby, you and I've been been here before. Baby, you and I've been here before.